The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. Carl Jung's words remind us that love, in its purest form, is not about fusion. It's about transformation. Yet most of us enter relationships searching not for transformation, but for comfort. We seek someone who will calm our chaos, complete our emptiness, make the world feel less unpredictable. We long for permanence in a universe built on change. We crave connection that lasts, but few relationships truly endure the passing of time. They begin like fire, bright, consuming, undeniable, only to fade into smoke once the initial spark burns out. And so we ask, what truly sustains a relationship when the enchantment disappears? The answer is rarely romantic, because lasting love is not found in the perfection of the other, but in the courage to confront what the relationship reflects about ourselves. Love fails not because it runs out, but because it reveals too much. From a young age, we are taught to search outside ourselves for what we believe we lack. We look for someone to fill the gaps in our identity, to give us what we secretly fear we don't deserve. The modern myth of romantic love promises salvation, that somewhere out there is a person who will finally make us whole. But this fantasy, as Jung understood, is built on projection. When we fall in love, we don't see the other as they are. We see the mirror of our ideal self. We project our light, our unclaimed beauty, our hidden potential onto them. We call it chemistry, destiny, soul connection. Yet, what we often meet is the reflection of our own longing. The other person becomes the screen on which our unconscious plays its film. But projection cannot last. Reality always arrives. The habits, fears, and limitations of both individuals emerge. The fantasy begins to crack, and when it does, we panic. We think love is dying, when in truth it's the illusion that is breaking. What collapses is not the bond, but the dream we built around it. Jung would say that this is the moment when real love begins, the moment after idealization ends, because now, for the first time, we can meet the other not as a savior, but as a soul equally human, equally flawed, equally. Michel de Montaigne once said that true friendship is rare because it requires freedom and equality. The same is true for love. Real love cannot survive where there is control, superiority, or ownership. It lives only where there is mutual acceptance, the courage to be imperfect and to let the other be imperfect too. Most relationships die not from a lack of love, but from suffocation. We try to shape the other into the image we desire. We try to preserve the version of them that matched our projection. We demand consistency from beings who are in constant transformation. But love, like all living things, needs air to breathe. To love deeply is to allow imperfection to exist without panic. It is to say, I see you not as I wish you were, but as you are, evolving, contradictory, unfinished. And I choose to stay present through that uncertainty. Yet that kind of authenticity requires vulnerability. And vulnerability terrifies us. We fear being seen in our weakness. We fear being rejected for what is real. So we build walls disguised as intimacy. We share just enough to feel close, but not enough to be exposed. Montaigne understood that freedom and equality are incompatible with control. The more we try to possess the other, the less alive love becomes. Possession may create safety, but it kills spontaneity. True connection only grows where both can exist without pretending, without performing. Expectations are the silent contracts that destroy this freedom. We create them without realizing it. Expectations about how love should look, how the other should behave, how often they should reassure us. We confuse love with consistency when love is, by nature, unpredictable. Arthur Schopenhauer saw love as the blind impulse of the will, a powerful, often unconscious force. Without awareness, that impulse becomes suffering. We fall in love through instinct, but we stay in love only through consciousness. Without it, our need for control turns into emotional dependence. Dependence is the illusion that someone else can save us from ourselves, that their affection can erase our loneliness, heal our insecurity, make us feel enough. But no one can carry that burden for long. When we expect another person to fill our emptiness, the relationship collapses under the weight of our unmet childhood needs. Psychologist Gabor Mate calls this pattern the addiction to pleasing. We become so afraid of rejection that we build our identity around keeping others comfortable. We suppress our needs, overextend our empathy, and confuse harmony with love. But love without authenticity is not harmony. It's self-erasure. True connection begins when we stop needing to be perfect, when we dare to be seen in our contradiction, when we can say, "I love you, and I am terrified. I want closeness, and I need space. I want to grow with you, but I am still learning who I am." That honesty creates intimacy far deeper than any illusion of perfection, because real love is not built on agreement, but on truth. Friedrich Nietzsche once said, "There is always some madness in love, but there is also always some reason in madness." Love, to endure, must contain both. The irrational fire and the conscious choice. It is both wild and disciplined, spontaneous and intentional. To love is to risk. To allow someone close enough to touch your wounds, knowing they cannot heal them for you. It is to realize that relationships are not sanctuaries from pain, but mirrors that reveal it. The one you love will inevitably trigger the parts of you that still need light. That's not failure, it's initiation. Relationships that last are not those that avoid conflict, but those that use conflict as a path to self-knowledge. Every argument becomes an opportunity to see the ego at work, the part that wants to be right, to dominate, to be seen as the victim. Love in this way becomes a spiritual practice. It reveals where we are still asleep. When we stop expecting love to save us, it transforms. It ceases to be an escape from reality and becomes an invitation to grow within it. We stop seeking perfection and start practicing presence. Nietzsche believed that great love requires great strength, the strength to remain free within union, to hold someone without imprisoning them, to stay without clinging. Because love, when bound by fear, decays into possession. But when rooted in freedom, it becomes devotion. To love consciously is to understand that you do not own the person you love. You meet them again and again in the present moment. Never the same, never guaranteed. The beauty lies in the uncertainty. And yes, there is risk in this freedom. You may lose the person, you may outgrow each other, but the alternative, holding them captive within your expectations, is not love. It's control wearing the mask of care. Real intimacy is built not on promises but on presence. It is not the eternal vow that keeps love alive, but the daily act of showing up, vulnerable, honest, and willing to see both yourself and the other clearly. When two people can exist fully as themselves, without needing to possess or be possessed, love becomes less of a contract and more of a communion. It stops being about duration and becomes about depth. Perhaps that's what it truly means to have a relationship that lasts. Not one that endures in time, but one that evolves with time. A relationship that allows both to keep becoming. Because love is not static. It's not something to be kept. It's something to be lived moment by moment. And like all living things, it survives through renewal, through the courage to meet again after each transformation. So maybe the question is not, how do we make love last? But how do we let love keep transforming us? When we release the need to hold love still, we finally allow it to be what it was always meant to be, a force that awakens, not comforts. The most beautiful relationships are not those that promise forever, but those that remain true in the present. They do not guarantee permanence, but they offer authenticity, and that is far more sacred. The truth is simple. Love only remains when it no longer demands to remain. So ask yourself, what would happen if, instead of trying to hold love, you simply let it be? Perhaps, in that letting go, you would finally discover that the only love that lasts is the one that is free. Comment your reflection, subscribe, and continue your journey of self-knowledge and inner freedom.